So the UFC just announced its return to Auckland, New Zealand on February 23rd, and it leaves us with no question. We know who the main event is. It's Dan Hooker, but the question is, who will be facing Dan Hooker? Normally when you hear New Zealand, you think Israel Adesanya, but this is a fight night. Israel Adesanya isn't going to put his title on the line in a fight night, so that's not going to happen. Who's the next best New Zealander we know? It's Dan Hooker. He needs to headline this event. He's coming off a huge win at UFC 242 against Ally Quinta on the Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker card, and I'm looking forward to his return. I feel like some people are saying Paul Felder should be the fight that makes sense, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing Dan Hooker versus some other people as well. I like the Paul Felder fight, don't get me wrong, but I also feel like, listen, Dan Hooker versus Kevin Lee would make some sense. Dan Hooker versus Gaethje, but I know Gaethje probably wouldn't take that fight because he's looking for guys a little bit higher up in the rankings. But I feel like the general consensus is Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder. Is that good enough to headline a fight night? Yes, it is. Paul Felder bigger than ever? Yes, even though it was a controversial decision. More people know Paul Felder now. I mean, you're talking about two guys who are in exactly the same situation. They're both coming off big wins. And with Paul Felder, I say win. It's technically a win, even though it easily, definitely should have gone to Edson Barboza. But either way, both guys are coming off big wins in co-main events of huge pay-per-views that they probably don't belong in the co-main event of. Okay? They're in the same situation. There can only be one leech of pay-per-views. And I think Dan Hooker's going to win. So I think it's a great fight to have in Auckland. Paul Felder, a very winnable fight for Dan Hooker. And also, I like seeing top contenders at least go 5 rounds before they get a title shot. Or at least have a 5-round main event before a title shot. And it's the same thing for Zabit. I need to see him go 5 rounds. If you're going to convince me you're beating Holloway, I need to see you go 5 rounds hard. That's why I held back on giving Zabit title shots. For this time, I feel like both guys, the winner of this is going to be bigger than ever. Paul Felder, Dan Hooker, it makes complete sense. Then we look for other fighters on the card. Kai Kara France is fighting on UFC 245. On the early prelims, potentially the prelims. We'll see what happens closer to the fight. If he wins in dominant enough fashion against Brandon Moreno, which I think he probably will, even though it's a dangerous fight, we could have him have a quick turnaround, and you're talking other New Zealand guys. We're talking Western Australia, Tuivasa, Tyson, Pedro. You got guys to work with. I think Tuivasa is in a very lucky situation because, to be honest with you, if they didn't have a New Zealand event, who knows if he would still be fighting in the UFC. So they're going to New Zealand. Tuivasa is 100% going to be fighting for his career, and I feel like a good fight for him would be Maurice Green. Coming off a loss to Sergey Pavlovich, it would mean both guys are coming off losses. So Maurice Green, a big, tall heavyweight. Tuivasa would be a good fight for him. Also, if Maurice Green doesn't answer the call because he's coming off a KO loss, he probably wants some time off. I know another guy. And I can't remember his fucking name, but I just had it in my head. Fuck's sake. I literally just had it in my head. I was thinking Tuivasa versus... And that's the fuckery. Todd Duffy! There you go. Todd Duffy owes us a fight for them faking the eye pokes. Even if he wasn't faking them. It was a shitty way to end a fight, and I think I need to see him back again. Tuivasa versus Todd Duffy. 2 big heavyweights swinging fucking overhands after overhand. Sign me up. That's a great fight as well. On the rest of the card, you could have Shane Young, a guy that trains in Israel Adesanya's gym over there. And I like that. City Kickboxing. Shane Young, a great fighter, a featherweight. I don't know who I would want to see him face, but there's definitely some options in that featherweight division. I feel like Sean Woodson would be a great fight for Shane Young. 2 guys. Sean Woodson won his UFC debut. Shane Young, I think, is on a 2-fight win streak right now, so we need to find out who the real contender is. Shane Young versus Sean Woodson. We're going to have to make do with what we got on this card. And last of all, on the main card, we need Tyson Pedro. He's a good name over there. He's coming off a loss, which is kind of bad to Shogun Rua because he got injured with his knee. I hope he's healthy enough to fight on this card. He's got some time. It's in February 23rd or 28th, 23rd. He's definitely got time to make the event. Tyson Pedro versus Mikhail Alexijuk would be great. Tyson Pedro versus Khalil Roundtree would be great. Obviously, Khalil Roundtree trains in Thailand, so he may even like fighting on Australia or New Zealand because it's a lot closer for him. Who knows? That could be something that happens. It's going to be a great event. I'm out of content, by the way. That's why I'm making this video. There's no fights for 3 weeks, and I'm going away somewhere on a little bit of a holiday, as you will, for 3 days. So these are the fucking videos you're getting, alright? At least I'm posting. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. I'm going to try and go live from a hotel room as well. We'll talk about it. I'll go live later. We'll talk in a bit. See you later. Like and subscribe.